English Easy Podcast.
Hello, learners. Welcome back to English Easy Podcast, your partner to learning English.
You know, what if I told you that the reason you keep forgetting those really complex English grammar rules isn't because you have a bad memory.
Right.
Or, because you're quote-unquote too old to learn a language, but it's actually because of that massive plate of fried chicken you ate for lunch.
I mean, I know it sounds totally absurd at first, but well, there is a really profound biological truth there. We tend to treat language learning purely as a mental exercise, right?
Exactly.
And we completely ignore the physical machine that actually has to process all those new words.
Exactly. And that is exactly what we are unpacking today. For you, our listener, you're likely a busy working adult, that very specific kind of exhaustion.
Oh, definitely.
You sit at your desk, maybe you're finishing up a long day of work and you're trying to squeeze in some vocabulary practice. By the end of it, your brain doesn't just feel tired, it feels heavy.
Yeah, like there's a thick gray cloud inside your head.
Right. You stare at the page and the words just they stop making sense. You push and push, but your brain is essentially whispering, please stop, I'm done.
Which is the absolute definition of mental fog. And what's fascinating here is our reaction to it. I mean, we often blame ourselves, right?
Well, all the time.
We think, I'm just not disciplined enough, or my brain is just lazy. But your brain is not lazy at all. It's actually an incredibly efficient engine.
Okay, so what's the issue then?
Well, the problem is that it's running on the wrong fuel at the wrong time and under the wrong conditions.
And that is the mission of this deep dive. We are exploring the daily routines from what you eat to how you manage digital distractions to, how you process your emotions that actually boost your brain power.
Because before we can talk about memorizing 100 new vocabulary words, we have to optimize the engine of the brain itself.
Exactly. We are custom tailoring this for you, the intermediate learner trying to master English without, burning out. So let's start with time. I used to think that the real language masters, like the polyglots, just locked themselves in a room and grinded for 6 hours straight. Like a marathon.
Yeah, that is a massive misconception. People think sitting at a desk for 5 hours equals 5 hours of learning. But biologically, pushing past your natural limits destroys your productivity.
Wait, really? It actually destroys it?
Oh, completely ruins your ability to move new words from short-term to long-term memory. We have to look at what scientists call ultradian rhythms.
Ultradian rhythms. Okay, explain how that works for someone just trying to get through a chapter of an English textbook.
Sure. So just like you have a circadian rhythm that dictates your sleep over 24 hours, you have ultradian rhythms that dictate your focus during the day. Your brain naturally operates in peaks and valleys.
Oh, I see.
We work best in intense bursts of deep focus that last about 90 minutes. Around that 90-minute mark, your brain begins to deplete its readily available glucose and neurotransmitters.
So it's literally running out of gas.
Exactly. It desperately needs a reset. If you just try to push through it, you aren't actually learning anymore. You're just staring at text.
Man, that makes so much sense. I remember locking myself in a room, and by hour 3, I was just moving my eyes over the page, nothing was sinking in. Yeah. So taking a break isn't a sign of weakness at all. It's a biological requirement.
Precisely. If you take a 15-minute break to step away, your brain clears out the metabolic waste that builds up during intense thought.
Wow.
When you come back, you're fresh again. You're working with your biology, not against it.
Okay, so the 90-minute rule protects our time. But I've noticed I can take, all the 15-minute walking breaks I want. And if I had the wrong lunch, my brain still completely refuses to focus. Why does what we put in our stomach completely override our focus?
Well, because your brain is essentially a very selfish roommate when it comes to your body's energy. Even though it only makes up about 2% of your body weight, it demands roughly 20% of your body's total energy to function.
Wait, 20%? Just to think.
Just to think. Now, think about what happens when you eat that massive plate of fried chicken and rice you mentioned earlier. Your digestive system suddenly pulls the metaphorical fire alarm.
Oh, right, because it's so heavy.
Exactly. It requires a massive amount of energy and blood flow to break down all those heavy, complex fats and refined carbohydrates. Your body activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode.
Rest and digest, yeah.
So blood literally diverts away from your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain you need active to learn a new language, and it rushes down to your stomach.
So my brain is literally being starved of oxygen and resources because my stomach is working overtime.
You got it. Plus, meals with massive amounts of refined carbohydrates cause a huge spike in your blood sugar, which inevitably leads to a dramatic crash an hour later.
Right, the food coma.
Yes. If you want to sustain that 90-minute focus block, you need light, healthy meals that provide steady, slow-release energy. We're talking about foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants. Salmon, walnuts, blueberries, and yes, even dark chocolate.
Okay. I can definitely get on board with dark chocolate. And to maximize this, I was actually reading about mindful eating. Instead of watching a video or scrolling through vocabulary flashcards on your phone while chewing, you eat.
Right.
By doing that, you actually notice when you're full and you don't overeat into that tired, heavy state.
That's a great point. And if you do hit a wall and get tired, there's a strategic way to recover. Naps.
Wait, a nap? Because every time I take a nap in the middle of the day, I wake up feeling groggy, confused, and honestly, much worse than before. How do you nap without ruining the rest of your afternoon?
Well, you're likely napping too long and entering deep sleep. If you wake up during a deep sleep cycle, you experience something called sleep inertia. That's that groggy, heavy feeling.
Oh, I hate that feeling.
Right. The secret is the strategic 20-minute nap. That is the sweet spot. It's long enough to recharge the brain and significantly improve memory retention, but short enough that you don't enter deep sleep.
20 minutes. Got it.
And pair that with some light movement afterwards, standing up, stretching, taking a short walk, and you completely banish the mental fog.
Speaking of taking a short walk, I really want to touch on the morning habit mentioned in our research. Just taking a morning walk, but specifically with no headphones, no English audiobooks, no podcasts, no music.
This is crucial. When you walk in silence, you activate what neuroscientists call the default mode network in your brain.
The default mode network, what's that?
Yes, it's the network that lights up when you aren't focused on the outside world. It's basically the brain's background problem-solving engine.
Okay.
If you're struggling with a tricky English phrase or you can't quite grasp a grammar rule, walking in silence allows your brain to process it subconsciously. You're literally studying while you aren't studying.
That is so cool.
Plus, getting natural sunlight in your eyes sets your circadian rhythm, which reduces stress and helps you sleep deeper that night.
I love that. Okay, let's pause and lock in the vocabulary we just used. I want you, the listener, to actively participate in this mental exercise. We're going to play a very quick scene of two coworkers by the coffee machine using 3 key words. Those are mental fog, rhythm, and mindful. Listen closely to how they're used.
Hey, are you okay? You look like you're staring at a blank wall.
I'm trying to finish this report, but I have such bad mental fog today. I can't think straight.
You need a better rhythm. You've been working for 3 hours straight without a break.
You're right. I need to be more mindful of my energy. I'm going to take a 10-minute walk.
All right, listener. Try to formulate the definition of mental fog in your head right now before the host says it. Take a second.
Got it. It is not just feeling tired. It's that specific cognitive state where your mind feels cloudy, heavy, and unable to process information clearly. What about rhythm? Think about it.
In this context, it's a repeating biological or behavioral pattern, like working for 90 minutes and resting for 15.
Exactly. Finally, think of how you would translate mindful into your native language.
In English, it means paying deliberate, full attention to what you are doing in the present moment, rather than being on autopilot. Excellent.
Now, optimizing your physical energy and your biological rhythms is a fantastic foundation. But it won't help you master English if your brain is constantly being hijacked by distractions.
Oh, digital distractions, the trap of the buzzing phone.
Yes. You sit down to study your English verbs, your phone vibrates, you think, I'll just check this for 1 second, and suddenly 30 minutes have vanished into the void of social media.
It happens to all of us.
But I can hear our listeners right now saying, I can't just ignore my phone for 90 minutes. I have a job, I have a family, my boss might need me. How does a busy adult actually implement digital fasting safely?
It's a very valid concern. Digital fasting doesn't mean moving to a cabin in the woods. It means creating intentional, protected boundaries. If a 90-minute block is impossible, start with 30 minutes.
Start small, yeah.
The reason we have to do this comes down to the dopamine reward loop.
Okay, dopamine. That's the chemical that makes us feel good, right?
That is the common understanding, but it's actually a bit more complex. Dopamine isn't just about pleasure. It's the neurotransmitter of anticipation and craving.
Ooh, a craving. Interesting.
Yeah. Every notification, every ping triggers a small release of dopamine because your brain anticipates a reward, a new message, a like, a piece of news. This loop makes your brain incredibly restless.
So you're just waiting for the next ping.
Exactly. You start constantly scanning your environment for the next quick hit of distraction instead of sustaining focus on the difficult task of language learning.
So if you start your morning by immediately looking at emails and messages, you're throwing your brain into a state of reactive stress and craving right from the start.
Spot on. A silent morning, even just the first 15 minutes after waking up, gives your prefrontal cortex the space it needs to warm up. By creating these pockets of digital fasting, you're literally training your brain to tolerate a lack of stimulation.
And that rewires it.
Yes, it rewires it to prefer deep focus over constant distraction.
This leads directly into a brilliant note-taking technique for retention. If you're exhausted at the end of the day, your brain is filled with all this noise. How do you retain the English you just studied? The answer is something called the mental load dump.
Think of your conscious mind like a computer's RAM. It's short-term memory. RAM has a very limited capacity.
Right.
If you have too many programs open, worries about tomorrow's presentation, emails you need to send, chores, the entire computer slows down. The mental load dump is a process where right before bed, you take a physical notebook and write down every single task, worry, and uncompleted thought in your head.
You just dump it all on paper to empty the RAM.
Right. Precisely. By externalizing those thoughts, you signal to your brain that it no longer needs to actively hold on to them. You stop looping over those worries while you try to sleep.
And sleep is huge for memory.
Exactly. Getting deep, uninterrupted sleep is the absolute requirement for neuroplasticity. That's the process where your brain physically builds new connections to move all those new English words from your short-term memory into your long-term memory.
That is incredible. And once the mind is clear, it actually craves engagement. This is where curiosity comes in. Our brains aren't just hard drives. They need genuine curiosity to stay flexible.
Very true.
I read about this idea of a curiosity burst, taking 5 minutes a day to research a completely random question like, why do cats purr? It breaks the monotony of rigid studying.
It does. And we can apply that active engagement directly to learning English through the Teachback Trick.
I've tried this, and it is exhausting but so effective. Listener, let's say you learn a complex new English idiom today. Instead of just highlighting it and hoping you remember, you pretend to teach it. You explain it out loud as if you're talking to a beginner, or you explain it to yourself in the mirror. But why is this so much more effective than just rereading my notes?
Because reading is passive recognition. Teaching is active recall. When you're forced to synthesize a concept and put it into your own words, your brain has to fire up entirely different neural pathways.
It makes you work for it.
Yes, it immediately exposes the gaps in your knowledge. It shows you what you actually understand versus what you only recognize on a page. Active recall forces the brain to wrap myelin around those new neural connections, making the memory stronger and faster to access.
It forces true comprehension. Okay, time for our second interactive vocabulary break. Let's practice 4 words we just explored: dopamine rewires, complex, and curiosity. Listen to this quick scene between 2 friends discussing a new hobby.
I started learning how to play chess, but the rules are so complex.
I bet. But doesn't it feel great when you finally win a game? That dopamine rush is amazing.
It really is. It feels like the game literally rewires my brain to think 3 steps ahead. It really feeds my curiosity.
All right, listener, test yourself. Formulate the definition of dopamine based on our discussion. Take a moment.
Got it. It is the neurotransmitter that drives anticipation, craving, and reward.
What does it mean when something rewires your brain?
In English, we use this to describe neuroplasticity, the physical changing of the brain's connections and pathways based on new habits.
Nice. How about complex?
It means something consists of many different and connected parts. It is not simple.
And finally, curiosity.
A strong, active desire to know or learn something new.
Fantastic. Now, a clear mind, protected time, and an optimized diet are fantastic tools. But if we look at the reality of being a busy professional, what happens when you're just too emotionally exhausted or stressed out to even open your notebook?
This is the real hurdle, isn't it?
It really is. You can have the perfect salmon salad and the perfect 90-minute timer, but if your emotions are a mess, if you're stressed about work or family, your mind simply cannot think clearly.
Because emotional balance is the glue that holds all of this cognitive function together. When you are highly stressed, your amygdala, the brain's fear center, essentially hijacks your cognitive processing.
Hijacks it, like takes over.
Literally. When the amygdala is hyperactive, it blocks the prefrontal cortex. You cannot retain new vocabulary, and you certainly won't have the courage to practice speaking.
So how do we calm the amygdala down? The research highlights a crucial rule for emotional health, and that's social interaction. Specifically, having at least one real face-to-face conversation every single day. No text messages, no emojis.
Yes, because real positive human connection releases a hormone called oxytocin. Oxytocin acts as a direct counterbalance to cortisol, which is the stress hormone. It drastically reduces anxiety and signals to your brain that you are safe.
Let's do a quick simulation right now for you, the listener, to overcome that fear of speaking. If you want to practice your English and get that oxytocin boost, try talking to a stranger, maybe a barista at a coffee shop.
Love this.
You don't need a complex philosophical debate. Just walk up, make eye contact, smile, and say, "Hi, how was your day going? I really like the atmosphere here." It's small, your heart might beat a little fast, but the moment they smile back and respond, your cortisol drops, your stress melts away, and your confidence in speaking English skyrockets.
It takes bravery to initiate, but the biological payoff is immense. Now, for the days when you are studying alone, building independent discipline is vital. The research provides a brief, 3-part daily reflection journal specifically designed to shift your emotional baseline.
Oh, the journaling for discipline. I've actually started doing this. The first part is a gratitude journal. Every night you write down 3 positive things. They can be tiny. I had a great cup of coffee, or I successfully used a new English word at work.
And this is not just a feel-good self-help exercise. There is a network in your brain called the reticular activating system, which filters information.
Okay.
By forcing your brain to scan your day for positive moments to write down, you are training that system to notice success rather than just focusing on failure.
So it changes what you naturally pay attention to.
Exactly. Over time, this actively changes your baseline emotional state. You become far more resilient against the inevitable frustrations of learning a language.
That's powerful. The second part is the daily win reflection. You ask yourself one question: what small thing did I do today to move forward?
This is vital for adult learners. You're often comparing your intermediate English to a native speaker's fluency, which makes the gap feel impossible.
Oh, the comparison trap, it's the worst.
By focusing on micro progress, just one small win, you prove to yourself that the massive goal is actually doable. It sustains long-term motivation.
And the third part, this might be my favorite, the one problem journal. Before you go to sleep, you write down a single problem you're facing. Maybe it's a grammar rule you can't figure out.
Yeah.
But the rule is, you do not try to solve it.
Right. By writing it down, you give your conscious mind permission to let it go. But more importantly, you're essentially giving your brain homework to do in the background.
While you sleep.
Yes. While you sleep, your subconscious mind goes to work sorting out the variables without the stress of your conscious interference. You often wake up with clarity.
It sounds like magic, but it's purely biology. Let's do our final interactive mental check for this segment. The words are clarity, gratitude, and doable. Listen to this brief scenario of 2 people discussing a huge project.
Looking at all these English books I need to read, it doesn't feel doable.
You just need some clarity. Break it down into 1 page a day.
You're right. Actually, I should show some gratitude that I even have the time to study today.
Okay, listener, what does clarity mean in this context?
It means the quality of being coherent, transparent, and easy to understand, removing the confusion.
What is gratitude?
A state of thankfulness and active appreciation.
And what does doable mean?
It simply means something is practical, possible to achieve, and within your capability.
You're doing incredibly well. Applying these concepts and these words to your daily life is exactly how you make them stick permanently. So let's tie this all together. What does this mean for you, the busy professional trying to level up your English? We've covered a massive amount of ground today in this deep dive.
We really have.
We learned that boosting your brain power isn't about grinding for hours in a marathon session. It's about respecting your biology. It means working in focused 90-minute ultradian rhythms. It means fueling that selfish roommate in your skull with light, brain-boosting food so you don't trigger a parasympathetic crash.
It also means protecting your dopamine levels by practicing digital fasting and creating quiet space for your default mode network to process information.
Yeah.
It means using the Teachback Trick to force active recall and myelin growth. And crucially, it means maintaining your emotional balance through real human connection and daily journaling to keep your amygdala in check.
It is a completely holistic system. Which brings me to your micro-challenge for today. Sometime today or tomorrow, I want you to set up just one 90-minute focus block for your English studies. Put the phone in another room.
Good luck with that.
You can do it. When that timer ends, take a 15-minute walk outside with no headphones, and tonight, right before bed, do a mental load dump on paper. Experience that absolute clarity for yourself.
And as you prepare for that restful sleep, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to ponder. We discussed how the one problem journal proves that your brain works on solving issues while you sleep. Your subconscious is actively connecting the dots during those deep sleep cycles.
Right.
So what happens if you review your absolute most difficult, complex English vocabulary just 5 minutes before you close your eyes? If you feed that information to your brain right as it transitions into sleep, could your subconscious actually be studying for you all night long?
Oh, wow. Imagine waking up and finding that the vocabulary just feels natural to you.
No.
I love that idea. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep challenging yourself, keep being curious, and remember that great cloud of exhaustion doesn't stand a chance against a brain equipped with the right habits and the right biology. Keep exploring, and we will catch you next time.